أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
We're covering Surah Qalam tonight. Surah Qalam is the 68th Surah of the Quran. And if you're using the Yusuf Ali translation, it's on page 1585. So Surah Qalam is among the earliest surahs revealed to the Prophet as a complete surah. You'll actually see in the Arabic there on the type, on where the surah name is, you can actually see the number 2. At least historically, it's reported to be actually the second complete surah that was revealed to the Prophet. We know Iqra was the first, and in between that, there was surahs like Muzammil and Mudaththir or parts of it, about old power wrapped up in garments. I think for me the important thing about mentioning that is, if you just set this back in time, and imagine among the earliest revelations, the first one was Iqra, to read. And here we see the second revelation being Qalam, and the pen. So it's quite a striking thing that Allah takes an oath by the pen at a very early juncture of Islamic history as such. And Allah takes an oath by the pen and what men write. Thou art not by the grace of thy Lord made or possessed, referring to Prophet. Nay, verily for thee is an unfailing reward, and you stand on an exalted standard of character. So coming back to this term Qalam, Wama Yasturun, what I found very fascinating is trying to read a bit about the literary record in the Arabian Peninsula. Obviously not a lot of research was done in the Arabian Peninsula, I think because of who's in charge. But we know in the northern parts like the Petra and those regions, there's a Nabatean society that lived there, that built Petra. And below that was another part of their development, which was called the Madain Soli, which they call it today. And there's a lot of stone inscriptions in those regions, and indicating some form of writing. There's also written records in terms of inscriptions in Yemen. But in between, I don't think they've studied enough, because there isn't much. What I find very fascinating is Allah takes an oath by the pen, Wama Yasturun, in what people write, what they write. So the question comes up is that we often understand Arabian society to be a society of illiteracy at that point in time. They didn't know how to read or write. But Allah takes an oath by that which men write. So it does raise some questions around the literary nature. Was this verse trying to tell people, although you never wrote before, start writing and use the pen? Or was it that they were known to write things, right? We can just look at 2 or 3 references just on this issue of Yasturun. So the first one is in Surah 52 verse 2. 52:2, which is Surah 52 verse 2. Page 1432, Surah 2 verse 2. وَالتُّورِ وَكِتَابٍ مَسْتُورٍ. So you see a very similar root mentioned by the Kitab Mastur, like it's translated here by the decree inscribed. So Allah is taking an oath by the Quran as being something that is written. And if we just turn a few pages ahead in Surah 54, verse 53, 53, page 1463. Page 1463, from 52 we can read, all that they do is noted in the book of deeds. Every matter small and great is on record. وَكُلُّ صَغِيرٍ وَكَبِيرٍ مُسْتَطَرٍ. So again the same root about writing, and even your records are recorded or documented as such. And then the last one, I don't think we need to, we'll look at one last reference, sorry. Surah 25 verse 5. 25:5, one last reference on this topic. 25:5, page 927. And they say tales of the ancients which he has caused to be written, and they are dictated before him morning and evening. وَقَالُوا أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ اكْتَتَبَهَا فَهِيَ تُمْلَى عَلَيْهِ. So here the Prophet is also accused of writing the tales or these records as such. And what's interesting is that tales of the ancient, the same Arabic root is used, asatir al-awwalin, from the same root. So tales or writings or narratives seem to be something that was existent in the time of Islamic history as well. So we know asatir al-awwalin is a very common term used, tales of the ancient. But what's also interesting from what I read in terms of the history of writing in Arabia was, like this Nabatean society I was talking about, they never necessarily had an Arabic script, at least pre-Quran, but they actually wrote in other letters, like other languages. But if you read those alphabets in a different language, and you read it and you listened to it, you'd hear Arabic come out of it, because they used the symbols of another language to write what they did. So the Asatir al-Awwalin also might refer to them documenting it, not necessarily in the Arabic alphabet, but having some writing history as such. So anyway, I think verse 1 in sum basically is a call to knowledge, a call to using written knowledge as an important source and evidence. And what for me is most striking is that this is actually at the beginning of the Islamic journey with the Prophet ﷺ, and Allah swears by the pen as an evidence of the certainty of this message. And if you look at the Quran, it has stayed unadulterated from its inception to today. And if you look at the oldest recorded Quran, the one that was found in Birmingham, like in the time of the prophetic period, it's unchanged. And really just tells you that the pen was a very powerful tool that proved the authenticity of the Quran, but also became an important tool of the Quran, and stands today as an evidence of that same certainty of the Creator and the message that was given to the Prophet ﷺ. So we can move on. So the main thing that the surah deals with is two issues. The one is related to where the Prophet was accused of being a forger and majnoon, as in verse 2, person possessed by jinn. And Allah says, "Thou art not by the grace of thy Lord made or possessed. Nay, verily for you is a reward unfailing." And what I also find very striking is that, so the first is dealing with the accusations against the Prophet ﷺ. And there's two things that are mentioned about the Prophet ﷺ, verse 3 and verse 4. The first is, "Inna laka la'ajran ghayra mamnoon." The word mamnoon means to be prevented or stopped. And it almost like when you read verse 3, this is like early revelation. Allah says, the Prophet is unstoppable. He can't be prevented. You're not going to stop him. And that's actually what happened. He stood with the Quran, he went right through his life, and it became the dominant thing in the Arabian Peninsula. And verse 4 talks of, "And you, O Prophet, stand on an exalted standard of character. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ." So this one here speaks to the sublime character and nature of the Prophet ﷺ, as opposed to what they accused him of as being a mad or possessed one. What's interesting is the word khuluq. His nature, character was azim, was great. And what's interesting is, I think when they asked the Aisha radiallahu anha about the khuluq of the Prophet ﷺ, her answer was that khuluq was the Quran. His nature and character was actually the Quran. So we see very well between what the Prophet's character was and his tie-up with the Quran as such. So we can move on to verse 8 now. So dealing with this early revelation, Allah advises the Prophet obviously that he's not made, he's got a message and he's unstoppable. And verse 8 gives one important principle to the Prophet in this early stage. So listen not to those who deny the truth. Their desire is that you should be pliant, so would they be pliant. So the word pliant is used in a few places in the Quran. In Surah Waqiyah verse 81 is also used. We can look at that quickly. Surah Waqiyah verse 81. What does this pliant mean? 56:81. We can quickly go over there. This is Surah Waqiyah verse 81, page 1493. أَفَبِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَنْتُمْ مُدْهِنُونَ. And dahan is the weak or light. So in verse 81, it is such a message that you would hold in light esteem. The word dahan means weak or to hold something of light matter, or not to take it seriously or sort of scoff it off as such. In verse 81 in Surah Waqi, Allah says, do you take this Quran as a light matter? Do you not take it with its serious due? And we find in our Surah, Allah says to the Prophet, they want you to take it easy, lay back, be pliant, relax, pull back, don't get too serious.
Complacent.
Be complacent. And so that they can be complacent as well. So they don't really want to face the hard facts. And the principle that's laid out here is that, right at the beginning, is that the principles need to be held firm and uncompromising as such. We find a similar principle in Surah Kafirun as well. Right, and the reason why all that was important is the challenge that he'd face. And verse 10 to 16 deals with a specific character type that the Prophet faced, but no name is given. And it's really meant for all time as to, when you stand for the truth, what's your biggest obstacle? Certain personalities. And verse 10 to 16 describes the specific personality. He's not the type of despicable man, ready with oaths, a slanderer going about with calumnies, virtually hindering all good, transgressing beyond bounds, deep in sin, violent and cruel, with all that, base-born, because he possesses wealth and numerous sons. When to him are rehearsed our signs, he says, "Qala asatirul awwaleen," tales of the ancient. Soon shall we brand the beast on the snout. So it's a very beautiful. If you read the Arabic, it's very poetic and filled with adjectives describing this bed. And really, I think in simple terms, 10 to 16 10 to 14, describes a troublemaker. And what defines this troublemaker? Ready with oaths, makes stories, slandering, calumnies. He's looking for any opportunity to cause chaos, hindering all that is good. So when he sees something going right for you, he wants to upset it. Transgressing beyond bounds, violent. And the term zanim is used as well. So it's almost like base. Really defining this really low character, and this is the kind of personality that really throws off the truth. And what drives such a personality? And verse 14 describes it. This ego that this base is based upon is because he possesses wealth and numerous sons. So it's about power in terms of money and following that drives such a character. But Allah beautifully and poetically says, سَنَسِمُهُ عَلَى الْخُرْطُومِ, soon shall we brand the beast on the snout. So this personality that's such a obstructive personality with its nose in the air will finally get that nose chopped off, And you find that essentially this is finally what happened. And for me, the striking thing, like I mentioned in verse 3, is like غَيْرَ مَمْنُونَ. The Prophet is unstoppable, and these characters think they got the money and the following and they got all the contacts and they can sort you out. But if you're uncompromising and you know Allah is on your side, then you're unstoppable, and the worst personality types will basically fall down as such. So I think it's a very encouraging set of verses as such. And related to that, what's interesting is we just move towards the end of the surah. And remember, this is to the Prophet in a very early stage. He just got the revelation, afraid of what he'd been given and uncertain, quite surprised by this new knowledge that he was given. And if you look at the story that's given, if you look at verse 48, encouraging the Prophet again, very similarly. So wait with patience for the command of your Lord, and be not like the companion of the fish. When he cried out in agony, had not grace from his Lord reached him, he would indeed have been cast off from the naked shore in disgrace. Thus did his Lord choose him and make him of the company of the righteous. It was very striking that of all the stories that the Prophet would receive in his early mission, in this Meccan period, often about the hereafter, etc., the story of Yunus is given to him. And I want us to just look at Surah 37, verse 42 quickly. 37, 42, and why is it so relevant? 37:42. Surah 37 verse 142, sorry. 37:142. So on page 1210, the story of Yunus al-Islam is given. We know he ran away to that laden ship. Verse 142, then a big fish did swallow him up. And then 143, had it not been that he repented and glorified Allah, would certainly have remained in the fish, etc. But I find what's very striking about the story of Yunus that stands out, after he repented and came back and went on his mission, he didn't turn away from his mission. Verse 147, we sent him on a mission to 100,000 men or more, and they believed, so we permitted them to enjoy their life for a while. And you know, if you just imagine 100,000 people in those days. I'm just thinking with all our efforts at YouTube and Facebook, and we can't even get to 1,000, right? Maybe a few hundred if we're barely lucky, right? And the story of Yunus reaching 100,000 in those days, and this message to the Prophet in his early days to say, look, think about Yunus, you know. He reached 100,000. If you look at the prophetic mission, these few people, early days, Allah tells him, you're unstoppable, these bad guys after him. He gives the story of Yunus and says, you know what, to all your dark days, don't worry, if you just stick to the, not being blind, you will get your 100,000.
Patient, yeah.
Be patient and you'll get there. So I think that's an important lesson out of this surah. The next big topic in the surah now turns to the issue of monetary wealth. And it's interesting that this topic comes up at one of the very early revelations to the Prophet ﷺ. And we can quickly just look at verse 17 onwards. Verily we have tried them as we tried the people of the garden, when they resolved to gather the fruits of their garden in the morning, but made no reservation. Then they came on the garden of visitation from their Lord. In 20 it was desolate and destroyed. And when they woke up and they went to the garden, you know, if you get 22, go you to your toil betimes in the morning, if you gather the fruit. So when they departed, conversing in secret low tones, saying, let not a single miskin, an indigent person, break in upon you into the garden this day. And when they opened in the morning, strong in unjust resolve, when they saw the garden, they said, we have surely lost our way. Indeed, we are shut out of the fruits of our labor. So this describes these people that have been given this garden, and they really were successful. And Allah destroyed that garden. But what I find very striking about it is verse 28. Said one of them more just than the rest. Did I not say to you, why not glorify? They said, glory to our Lord, we have been doing wrong. So for me, what's striking as well is that highlighting that the issue with the wealth here, there's two lessons that I see in here. The one is obviously verse 24, where their attitude was the problem. It wasn't the garden or the wealth and the fruits that they had, but they resolved not to have an indigent breaking upon them. So they were greedy and they didn't want to share their wealth with the less fortunate. And the second for me is striking is about this person that speaks in 28. Did I not say to you, why not glorify Allah? And for me, it's not saying, did I not tell you don't make money? It's saying, did I not tell you glorify and appreciate and realize that Allah is your final authority, you know, and your duty is also to share with others. And that for me are the two lessons out of this, is sharing with others and recognizing Allah's hand in the affairs of men. The last thing I'd like to highlight, when Allah describes this person, Qala awsatuhu, you know, and what's interesting is wasta means middle, and literally translates it as best. And I was just thinking of, like, you know, Allah could have used the ahsan person or whatever, but he used wusta. And there's a few places where the word wusta is used. So when the Prophet was in battle, he was in the middle of the battle. He was wusta. That's in Surah 2, verse 238. Allah talks of, you know, feed on the average, you know, when you're giving, you should give the average of your food of your family. Again, the word wusta is used, like your middle, sort of your centrality. Allah talks of your ummah justly balanced, ummatun wasata. And even your salah, Allah says the salatul wusta, the middle prayer. And when I was just thinking about it, why does Allah use the word middle or center? It's almost inviting us not to be extremists. You know, if you think, if you stick to the core, that's what makes you good. It's not by being an extremist that makes you good. I was just thinking, fundamentally, this guy also didn't say something fantastic. He just said, just remember Allah. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not saying that, you know what, you should keep all your wealth away. And I'm not saying, you know what, I'm just saying recognize Allah in your wealth. Be balanced, you know. And I think those are the kind of the key elements. And it's striking that this is an early revelation giving a very clear direction on the appreciation of wealth, the distribution of wealth, and the recognition of Allah in the activity of men as such. Then we can move on. To section 2 deals with the righteous and the guardian, etc. And then we can move on to verse 42. It's obviously dealing now with the sinners from 42 onwards. Allah subhanahu says, Yawma yakshafu an sakin, the day that the shin shall be laid bare, and they shall be summoned to bow in adoration, but they shall not be able to. The eyes will be cast down, ignominy will cover them, seeing that they had been summoned aforetime to bow in adoration while they were whole, and leave me alone with such as reject this message, by degrees shall we punish them from directions they perceive not. So the term, the day that the shin shall be laid bare, I think I might have mentioned this previously, but the word kashaf and isaq, it also used, you know, when Bilqis walks over the glass slab, and she thought it was water, and she lifted up her skirt and showed her shank. But at least metaphorically in the Arabic language, it seems like, you know, when you're in a hurry, even when you carry kurtas as well, you got to pull up your kurta and then run, right? Or like ladies will tuck up their skirts and then run, you know. And kashaf and shak seems to imply almost like in a state of fright. That's what it really means. And I know there's another verse in Surah 74, we don't have to look at it, but Allah says that, you know, that day you'll be like frightened asses running, you know. And Allah says, 42, I think in my understanding of the day that the shin shall be laid bare and they shall be summoned, is like you'll be in a state of fright and shock. You'll be running helter-skelter, basically that's what verse 42 is saying. The eyes will be cast in ignominy, and they will be, seeing that they had been summoned before time to bow in adoration while they were whole. So what I find also striking is that they shall be summoned to bow, وَيَدْعُونَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ, but they will not be able to make sujood. And then 43 says, they had been summoned aforetime to make sujood, but while they were sarimun, they were whole. And for me, what's striking is that if this whole surah was revealed, the second revelation to the Prophet, there was no salah, 5 times a day salah and all of that at that point in time. And the sujood in this context could only mean submission to the message. That, you know, so here, aforetime they were, and if you look at 44, then leave me alone with such as reject this message. It seems the word sujood, especially in this context, seems to apply to, they were being called to this message. They were being asked to submit to this message. And they refused to bow down. And Allah says you were able to subject yourself to this while you were alive. But in 42, you'll be called to submit to Allah, but you will not be able to. It's not that you won't be able to, because it's finished. You were given the book was for the earth, and it's over now. There's no more book for you in the hereafter. And you can't make sajidun as such to, or submit yourselves to the message as such. And then we can just end off with the last two verses, 51 and 52. And the unbelievers would almost trip you up with their eyes. When they hear the message, they say, surely he is possessed. But it is nothing less than a message to all the world. So I think 51 is also interesting, is that, you can imagine this is an early revelation. The Prophet was a respected person. He's coming with this message to say he's been inspired. And you know how people wink, and if you read 51, it almost looks like, and it's like wink at one another and say, what is this guy talking? He's gone off his head. And that's what basically their attitude was when the Prophet came with this revelation. But despite the attitude of that slanderous person, the attitude of the people that sneered at him in 51, Allah promised him in the beginning of the surah that he's unstoppable, there's nothing can prevent his achievements in success. And 52, what's also striking is that it is nothing less than a message to the Alameen. So right at the beginning, the message was meant for the totality of humanity. And something that I think the surah teaches us a lot about what the Prophet achieved and the methodology he used, and the challenges he faced, and what we can also learn from it. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.